Good morning and welcome to a Friday with Mary Michele, taking your calls on astrology. We do have an open line at 241-1310, 241-1310. So good time if you want to talk to Mary Michele. Give us a call now, and good morning to you, madam.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Now, you said you were Big Bird today?
Well, I'm all in yellow, and I thought,
That's right.
Sesame Street, Big Bird.
Okay. But you wanted to talk about Pluto today, so how did Big Bird come in? Never mind.
Well,
Good morning.
I think you have to bring a little light to the underworld, because Pluto's about the underworld. He's the king of Hades. Pluto was the son of Kronos, Saturn, the brother of Jupiter, the king of the gods. And what happened was that Jupiter took the better kingdom for himself, which were the heavens, and Pluto ended up with the lesser place, as one might call it, the underworld, that dark, hidden part of ourselves. So what he did to make his life a little more pleasant was he abducted Persephone. Persephone was the daughter of Demeter. She was extremely beautiful, and she was very young when she was taken down into the underworld. And I think she kind of had a little bit of mixed feelings. The nature of getting away from her mother and going off into another place was something that probably was, made her kind of happy. On the other hand, she didn't like being locked in the realm of darkness. But she did eventually become quite adept at it. And what she did was she would go back and forth, which is what we all have to learn how to do. We have to learn to deal with our unconscious, the dark side, the area that is when we have to look in the mirror and see a side of ourselves that we don't like, which is what the realm of Hades is about. She learned how to do that and then go back up into the light. So it's a story with a happy ending, basically, which I think is she was able to come back and learn that we have to constantly be dealing with looking at the parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, and it's an ongoing process. Nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. And, that's life, sort of.
Whatever you say. All I can think of is Mark Twain's line about the underworld. You go to heaven for climate, and you know where for society. Anyway.
That's a good one. I like that, Mike.
That's Hal Holbrook when he did Mark Twain Tonight. One of his best lines ever. But Mark Twain actually did write that, and he was quite a person. We've got a couple of callers now. What do you say we get to the phones? We do have an open line at 241-1310, 241-1310, and somebody who I believe has been with us before, Randall from Ossining. Date of birth is August 10th, 1934. Good morning, Randall. You're on with Mary Michele.
Good morning.
Morning, Randall.
How are you doing?
All right. How are you doing?
Pretty fair.
Fair?
I have I hate to say good, you get people jealous.
Well, you can also inspire them, though.
Oh, well, that could be, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a particular question?
Yes, like financially, I have something hanging in the balance. I'm a little concerned about how it'll wind up. I mean,
Well, I think right now is a time that you're probably going to be wanting to spend more time with someone that you're close with.
Family.
Yeah. The Venus and Mars and Cancer, it's a very, very good time to be spending time with those that you love. It's you can give a lot, you can get a lot back from them. And I would imagine that these are people that also know something about your financial situation and might advise you. It would be a good time to take their advice on the matter. How are they seeing it?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you for calling. It is coming up to 11 minutes past 9 o'clock. We do have open lines at 241-1310. Earlier today, as you know, we were talking a little earlier, Pat Riley, who is going to be the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, was here. And I wonder, the Irish always seem to have a smile on their face, and they always seem to have good luck after we had the little problem there. St. Patrick symbolizes what? The Celtic. I mean, if we can go back to that. Do you remember?
Well, St. Patrick was the patron saint of Ireland, obviously, and there is a story that St. Patrick was abducted at sea and that he spent a lot of time either in Egypt or somewhere in the Middle East, because he brought back to Ireland some traditions that weren't strictly Christian, sort of ideas, and he actually had a very broad spectrum. He wasn't someone that was just educated in one particular belief system, to my understanding. He was also an extremely good politician. He understood people, and I don't know if you remember New York City years ago, Tammany Hall, but, I think New York has always worked rather well, and I think I find that sort of amazing, being such a big place. And I think the Irish have something to do with it because they understand this ebb and flow. It's about, I think, being surrounded by water, being a relatively small island, certainly not as small as other places, but whenever you're surrounded by water, there's a sense of ebb and flow. Astrology is about thinking about the elements. Water rules the emotions. So the Irish know how to deal with their emotions. Now, sometimes they get a little excessive, sometimes they can party a little too hard or whatever. But this is a release, too. And I think that, I'm not encouraging anybody to overdo it because I don't think that's a good idea. But I do think that we do have to find ways in which we can release.
Okay. Let us get back to the phones. Vinny is calling from Mount Kisco. He's watching on cable channel 12. Date of birth is January 10th, 1940. Vinny, good morning. You're on with Mary Michele.
Oh, good morning, Mike. Hello, Mary. How are you?
Good. How are you, Vinny?
Fine. My last name happens to be Murphy, so...
Okay.
Good time to call. You like the tie I'm wearing today? I mean, you going to be at the parade, by the way?
I love a parade. I hate to miss a parade, and I'll try to be there. I wish it was more sunshine today, but the Irish are used to this type of weather.
Okay, you're on with Mary Michele. Go ahead.
Mary, it was a very interesting introduction you had about Pluto and Hades. I love the connection of astrology and mythology. My progress chart, I just got it, and it has Pluto in 02 degrees Sagittarius, 22. So the 02, I guess it's 22 degrees Sagittarius. And your first caller was wondering about, I know that's the second house. I guess that's the second house. Pluto in the 22 degrees is the second house in Sagittarius.
Does that mean you have Scorpio rising?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's not been a good time for people with Scorpio rising the last 12 years with Pluto and Scorpio.
I know, but it just went into Sagittarius, didn't it?
Yeah. So that should lessen things. And I think Pluto in Sagittarius is going to be a time when people are going to have to look at things in a different way than they have. I think even this recent election with Pat Buchanan has brought things up to the foreground where people are going to have to look at things, that I think caused such an upset. And I think that is kind of what Pluto in Sagittarius is going to do. It's about idealistic. People are going to be dealing with idealistic total annihilations and new beginnings. They're going to have to look at things in ways that they've never looked at them before. For you personally, with Pluto and Sagittarius in the second house, it's about finding work that you like and need, that you really love to do. You have to be doing what Capricorn, you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart, so obviously your career is very important to you. And I think that it's a question of the career that you are doing. Is it something that you are happy with?
Yes, it is, and you're right about Capricorn and being very career-orientated. Yes, it's something that I'd love to do, but there are aspects of it that are rough. But it is something that I love to do. I do a couple different things, and I like to do them both. And there are a couple of other things I'd like to do too that may be more as far as love is concerned, but a person has to be a little bit practical sometimes too. No, I see you love your work, and
yes, I do.
You're very, very good at it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Was there anything in particular you wanted to ask me, though?
No, I was just wondering how, if you had any maybe insight into how Pluto in the second house in Sagittarius would affect the financial aspect of things.
Well, I think it's going to be a lot easier than it was going through your first house for the last 12 years. I think that you're going to be you've probably already found what it is that you like to do. You said to me that you know what it is that you like to do, and you have to have faith. Sagittarius, the sign of Sagittarius is about believing in things. So you have to believe that you're going to be able to make money at this. The second house is about self-worth, so you're going to be tested in that area about your own belief in yourself. But I think you've been through the worst.
Oh, right. Well, it's been rough, but that's very interesting. I like the idealistic aspect of that self-worth and very, very important concepts. This is the first time I've seen your program. How about yourself? What sign are you?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh.
So we're compatible.
Couldn't you tell?
We're friends, yes. Yeah. I could tell. Well, last night I went to a healing seminar, and the two healers were, one was a Capricorn and one was a Virgo, and I was wondering why I was just reveling in everything, and maybe that explains why I immediately called you as soon as I saw you on the...
Well, I have to go, but would you call again?
Certainly. Have a nice day.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you for calling, Vinny. Here is a lady who is 17 years old on Thursday, which is February 29th. Her date of birth is February 29th, 1928. Good morning to Doris.
Good
Doris,
morning,
are you there?
Here. You hear me?
Happy birthday a week early.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be 17 at long last?
Well, I'll tell you.
That's fun. Have you had a lot of jokes along that way?
Should have seen my 15th birthday, what my kids gave me.
Well, what did they give you?
Got a training bra and
By the way, Doris is watching on cable channel 12 over in Lake Peekskill. Good morning. You're on with Mary Michele.
Did you have a particular question, Doris?
Yes, I did. Well, sort of general, and I do have a couple of big decisions to make coming up. One regarding moving, and the other is selling of a share that I have, whether I should or shouldn't hold on to it.
You have the sun in Pisces. You have the moon in Gemini. This is a hard angle. It might be hard for you sometimes to become that Persephone figure that I was talking about earlier. The conscious and the unconscious are a little bit at war. Your unconscious wants to analyze things, and your sun, your conscious self, has tremendous compassion. And sometimes analysis and compassion don't always go together. I think this is why people sometimes have trouble understanding people that work as therapists. But anyway, to move on about your question, Mercury in Pisces, you have, a few planets here in Aquarius, and in January of this year, Uranus went into its own sign of Aquarius. So it's about new beginnings. It's about, was this sudden? Was this move something that came up suddenly?
Well, the initial move was a yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Decided to move, and then there was a death,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a very fast move.
Mm-hmm.
Things that not were planned.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've sort of been on hold for over a year.
Uh-huh.
It's been very difficult for everybody concerned.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're getting a lot of energy, though, from the planet Uranus. You're getting a lot of insight. You have it in the sign of Venus and in Mars. So it's almost like if both from the male and female relationships that you have, whether they're children or friends or whatever, both sexes are helping you with this big momentous shift that's going on for you. I don't know as there's going to be any clarity for you until the spring.
Oh, spring.
Is it something that you feel you need to do something about right now?
It's not something that has to be done immediately, like in the next couple of weeks, but it should be done within a couple of months.
Yes. Well, it will. I think you'll have greater clarity, and look for things to come to you that are completely out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary?
Yeah. This, and particularly suggestions, probably from younger people.
Younger.
Yeah. Is that helpful?
hope so. On the state of my health in the next few years?
Well, I think you've probably been concerned about it more over the last 2 years. But, coming up for the next couple of years, there's not, whatever it is that you were going through in the last 2 years is coming to an end. So, whatever your fear about, there might be a little bit with circulation, in the next couple of years. So you need to get out and walk. Is that something you can do?
No, it's very difficult.
Is it? Well, you need to get out. Even if you just get out and get driven around, you need fresh air. You need to be moving somehow. So, walk as much as you can. If you can't walk a lot, get someone to help you to go to be out and moving and seeing different things. Circulation needs, even if it's not the physical kind, it needs that fresh air kind of thing. You need to be, spend as much time in the garden and going to different places, getting people to take you around. Can you do that?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Doris, and happy birthday to you. We do have open lines now at 241-1310, 241-13. Now, Mary Michele, I have a question. Two questions, actually. The first one, you said a hard angle. Would you repeat what a hard angle means when you got this and there and it's a hard angle?
A hard angle, to me, it kind of resonates easily. A hard angle is 90 degrees, something that is a square.
A right angle.
Yeah. You can kind of see the energy being shut off, right? There's nowhere for it to go. Whereas a trine, either a sextile, a 60-degree angle, or a 120-degree angle, there's movement. There's movement to the energy. It flows. So a hard angle is usually a square is between two signs that are of the same modality. We call them modalities. And, if you take two fixed signs, if you take the sign of Aquarius, which we were just in February, we were in the sign of Aquarius, and you take the sign of Scorpio, okay, they're both what is known as fixed signs. The four fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo, which I don't know if any of you saw the show that I did here at VIP where I talked with the Lutheran minister, and we talked about the Gospels and the imagery, some of the imagery in the Gospels that have to do with the four fixed signs, Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John, and how these relate to the four fixed signs. It's fixed, if you can imagine, two bulldozers coming up against each other. Fixed, they both want to do things in their own fixed way. So a hard angle is between two people that have that kind of, conflict. Now, life is about conflict. And going back to my story of Persephone and how she was able to rise above this problem of just being stuck in the underworld, she would go back and visit her mother for 3 months of the year, and then she would go back into the underworld. And it's that same idea. Everything in life is going to have a certain amount of conflict. The theater, television, anything that you watch is going to have a certain amount of conflict. It's always about how much conflict and, how comfortable we feel with it and how much we allow other people to take the conflict for us. Anyway, so these hard angles are very important, and lots of times you'll see relationships between people that have to work it out through butting their heads together.
All right, the other question was, when Vinny called, he had some sort of a chart. He used a word there, and then he talked about 22 degrees of this, that, or something else. What's the name of that? And I assume that is a full astrological reading?
Right. He'd had his chart done.
Okay.
He was talking about transiting Pluto, where Pluto is right now. I think he mentioned progressed, but it wouldn't be progressed. It would be transiting Pluto because it's at 0 degrees or 2 degrees of Sagittarius right now. Around Thanksgiving, I refer to going back to Thanksgiving quite a bit because that was the time when I talked to people about their individual charts, that was the time that Pluto moved into Sagittarius. And this is really a big, big change. It's been since 1984 that Pluto was in Scorpio. So it's generational. It affects us in kind of, as Jung would call it, the collective unconscious. It's everybody. I don't know if you know the story of Jung right before the Second World War. He was working in Switzerland with a lot of patients from all different walks of life. life. And one of the things that helped him develop this theory about the collective unconscious was the fact that he noticed that in people's dreams, there were so many people that were seeing the horrific things that were about to happen during World War II. So there is kind of a collective sense of, a collective intuitive sense, which is what the collective unconscious is about. And, we all tap into it from time to time. And one of the things that I believe that astrology helps us with is to have more confidence in this and to believe that we have to trust our intuition and see when these things start to happen and how they, what the possibilities, how scary it could be to allow some person to come back into our sphere that would be too dictatorial or try to take control in too much of a way.
Okay. We have an open line at 241-1310. We're going to get to Meredith just a couple seconds away. We're talking to Mary Michele. If you have a question, 241-1310. Back with Meredith in 1 minute. There is nothing like the smell of a great cup of coffee. The deep, rich warmth of fresh brewed just conjured up cozy comfort. Doesn't it just make you want to curl up on a couch with a good book? The Coffee Pickers Cafe in Mount Kisco is just the place to go for aroma with atmosphere. Your own oasis where you can curl up with a cup of gourmet coffee, espresso, cappuccino, or cafe latte. Warm up in front of their wood-burning stove or nestle down on a cozy couch with a good book. Coffee Pickers Cafe even provides the books from their library of top selections, all for your enjoyment. And to enhance your coffee experience, try a Coffee Pickers muffin or Danish or select a decadent dessert. Located in Mount Kisco at 200 Main Street, there is no place like it. Nurture your spirit while you nurture your tummy. Hang out, relax, read your paper as long as you like. Get a second cup of coffee for the sports page. Sorry, we cannot offer antacid for the business section. Coffee Pickers Cafe, where good friends meet, 200 Main Street, Mount Kisco. And Coffee Pickers Cafe is now open, and for those of you who are out for your morning walk, well, walk right in and warm up with a nice hot cup of coffee. The Coffee Pickers Cafe, 200 Main Street in Mount Kisco. And let's get back to the phones. We're with Mary Michele taking your calls on astrology at 241-1310. We do have an open line. Let's get now to Meredith calling from Katona. Date of birth, May 27th, 1978. Meredith, good morning. You're on with Mary Michele.
Good morning, Meredith. Did you have a particular question?
Yes. Recently I've been having some problems in personal relationships with friends and whatnot, and I was just wondering if maybe calm down.
If it's calming down now? I would think that it probably would have started already to calm down a bit as of Monday this week. You have the sun in Gemini, the moon in Aquarius. This is a harmonious angle. You work well. You're conscious and you're unconscious. You go easily from one to the other. The moon in Aquarius, there might have been some big changes that happened to you in February that might have affected your personal relationships. But I think that you're probably better able to handle it than you think. Is there something in particular? Can you be a little more specific about the difficulty in the personal relationship?
Well, one of my friends is like that attitude, but
you had a huge fight.
Yeah.
Was this something different? I mean, had you not fought with this person before?
Oh no, we fight all the time.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, what made this fight different? I mean, sometimes fighting's good.
It's because it's not really a fight. It's just a lot.
Yeah. It kind of is eating at you. What is this fight about? Does it have something to do with another individual, or is it a financial thing?
No, it's another individual. Actually, one of my boyfriends broke up with me because he liked her better.
Uh-huh. Well, I think the thing is that you have Venus in Cancer, and Jupiter in Cancer. These are the two luck planets, and right now is a very good time with the Sun in Pisces. It's trining that Venus and Jupiter in Cancer. So in terms of your emotional life and your the people that you're attracted to and that are attracted to you, it would seem to me that if these people don't appreciate you, now would be a time for you to go and try to initiate new relationships. There is stuff on your side, so to speak. On the other hand, if you do want to work it out with them, it's a time for you to be true to your feelings. You have to perhaps not hold back the way that Gemini is a sign that can overthink things. So what you want to do is you want to kind of take a moment, collect yourself, find a little moment of peace, and then go and say, this is what I feel. You've really hurt me, and this is why you've really hurt me. Either way, I think it's a very good time for you to take that kind of initiative.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you for calling. We're talking to Mary Michele. We have an open line at 241-1310. Let's get to Barbara. Barbara's watching on cable channel 12 up in Somers. Her date of birth, July 31st, 1952. 7/31/52. Barbara, good morning. You're on with Mary Michele.
Good morning, Barbara. Did you have a particular question?
Yes, I need money. Is there anything in there?
I need money. Okay, July 31st. You have the sun in Leo, the moon in Scorpio. These are two fixed signs, so the conflict goes on within you, kind of rages within you. Are you an artist?
A little bit of one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Mercury in Leo, Venus in Leo, are you kind of in the public? I mean, are you more of a performer kind of artist?
I just do it in my spare time for fun.
Uh-huh.
But I can feel it in me. I think I probably could.
Yeah. There's a lot of Leo here. How do you make money?
I'm a nurse.
You're a nurse. Are there ways, anything to do with children, all of these planets in Leo, it's not just the sun. You have a lot there. The moon in Scorpio, you might sometimes have trouble. The moon in Scorpio it's what we call in its fall. It is watery, Scorpio is a watery sign, but it might mean that you have trouble sometimes with superiors that are women. So, if you're having trouble, is there an authority figure that is female that is perhaps blocking you from... No. Well, I think if you can do things with children in terms of making money, this would be what kind of nursing do you do?
Critical care.
Critical care. I don't really know what to say. Critical care. I mean, that's something that I would think would be lucrative. I mean, you're very much needed in critical care.
Maybe I should search for what I should be doing, you know what I mean, in terms of maybe children or something. But I just thought, oh boy, is money going to come from somewhere out of the sky?
Well, the nature of money in astrology is about self-worth. We have to believe that we're worth money. That's the way we get money. So the way that we do that is we find things to do that we love. Because when we love it, then we know that we're good at it. And nobody can tell us otherwise.
Project in April.
I'm sorry?
I will be starting a woodworking project in April. I'll be making furniture. So that's kind of painting and creative for me, and I'll be learning. So I don't know, maybe I'd be able to sell it. Who knows?
I think that would be wonderful, and April is a very, very good time for you.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful time to start a new project. I think you just have to believe more in what you're doing. I think the woodworking is good. I think certainly being a critical care nurse is something that is, admirable, really admirable. I don't think I could do it. So, I think you have to believe in what you're doing. Maybe somewhere along the line in the last few years, that trust in yourself and your own abilities has been pulled out from underneath you. So you have to build that up again. Okay. Thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you for calling. And we do have an open line at 241-1310. Good time to get in to talk to Mary Michele at WVIP. And we will be back in exactly 1 minute.
The Bedford Pharmacy is a small, friendly pharmacy with the emphasis on service. Let John give you his undivided attention, filling your prescription in minutes with a complete computerized prescription record. Discover the many reasons to visit Bedford Pharmacy, like their selection of Bausch & Lomb sunglasses, Caswell Massey, Taylor of London, and Knipe products, fragrances like Shalimar and Chanel, a complete line of Revlon and Almay skincare. The Bedford Pharmacy, next to the hardware store on Route 22 in Bedford. Open weekdays 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 6. Fax service and charge accounts now available. Call 234-7074, 234-7075.
And welcome back. We're talking to Mary Michele, taking your calls on astrology at 241-1310. You often use the term earth signs. Pray
Right.
tell, meaneth what?
Right. Well, very much like I was talking about the 4 fixed signs before. There are 4 elements, as we call it. There are earth signs, water signs, fire, and air. And this year, particularly with Jupiter, the great benevolent king of the gods, in the sign of Capricorn, it's a good year for all of the earth signs. The earth signs are, starting with Taurus. Taurus is the sign that loves, things that are sensual.